have a follow-up question about,
Sure.
You mentioned about some of the research stuff. And also, Steve raised a point that we don't have the evaluation whether treatment as prevention works at the population-based level.
I agree.
Would the banks interested in maybe collaborate with us in terms of deliver a project and then evaluate that?
I think evaluation's an area where it's definitely worth looking at. We just launched a $50 million DFID-funded CEF, which is a special strategic impact evaluation fund, which looks at health and other interventions, which would be worth looking at. It's in partnership with the bank. There'd definitely be interest. The focus of the CEF this year is on health systems, on nutrition, on maternal and child health, and on reproductive health. We've already had expressions of interest and partnership from universities like UCSF, who have a program you might have heard of called SEARCH, which is meant to be the largest treat for prevent trial in Kenya and Uganda. And they've already used their treatment for prevention platform to look at other diseases. They're looking at hypertension, they're looking at diabetes, they're finding very high rates of undetected hypertension and diabetes. They're looking at other NCDs. So I think those opportunities are there, and I can definitely share the website with you. Yeah. Yeah.
Can we go? One NCD that we're interested in launching is cervical cancer.
Yeah.
And is that something that would fit under this program?
I think it would be certainly something one could integrate into the package of services. How are you foreseeing approaching it?
Well, we're looking at a specific donor.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we put forward a proposal, and we've got several countries in mind that we hope to target. We've done some work across our platforms, and are just getting involved. So we're taking baby steps.
Yeah, no, but I think.
But really, we have a big focus on NCDs now as well, in general, as PSI.
Yeah.
And this is one of the ones that we're interested in.
I guess my own view is I think the best opportunities will probably be to integrate NCDs into other platforms rather than anticipate specific funding in general for NCDs. But I think that in the integration approach makes absolute sense.
Well, one thing that we're thinking of is as women come in for HIV counseling and testing, that they also be tested for cervical cancer at that time. So integrating, as you say.
Right, which makes complete sense. Yeah.
And at the time of IUD insertion or
yes,
right.
Sure.
So it's very much an integrated approach where we've got existing social franchises adding cervical cancer screening and treatment. We've also been looking at potential of HPV vaccine, so we can offer a mom doctor package or something like that.
And that's a conversation, so you can
bring in your
family treatment.
I think that sounds great. And I do know when we've spoken to senior USAID colleagues, their interest in being able to take evidence and show Congress and others has been huge. And so I think that's exactly the right thing to do. I do think that using PEPFAR's platform for a wider range of diseases is going to be a big focus in the next 5 years.
Yeah, and just for the group's information, I requested David and he very kindly agreed at some point in the near future for PSI to go to the bank and do a brown bag of some sort on social franchising, integration, some of the themes are performance-based financing work as well.
Absolutely.
Things that dovetail with current bank priorities.
Yeah. Yeah.
What about also for the efficiency, our cost effectiveness work? I mean, might that be worth sharing the cost per DALI?
Definitely.
Okay, so we'll put that on the schedule as well.
Definitely, thank you.
Okay. I had a question for you. What about concurrency? Where are we? I mean, has that been replaced with a are we back to multiple partnerships? And, a condom message? Do you see a future for concurrency?
Okay. I think the real issue, and I'd be very interested to hear from PSI, and this actually relates to some of the involvement I had with PSI some time ago. I think the core issue we're touching on here is the real loss of faith in behavioral prevention in its entirety. So I think what we're seeing is focus on condoms as a commodity and as something we distribute. But I just don't think there's a lot of focus or interest in behavioral prevention. And what we can see why. I think it is true that there's a lot of AIDS message fatigue in most of the countries we work in. You know that better than me. And I also do think treatment has made it a lot harder to do behavioral prevention when they simultaneously transition on people. Yeah.
I don't know if Donna wanted to comment because
I really don't.
Favorite topic.
Yeah. I've been working on our concurrency work. I actually just sent out, and I wrote a note to send you a link to the
Thank you.
toolkit on concurrency that we've been working on with partners to just kind of be the summative, you know, these are our learnings, this is kind of how you might consider research and program implementation. But I think for us as an organization, I mean, the question is, what about concurrency? We had a meeting with a bunch of partners in South Africa and some donors as well. And Martina Morris was there, and we had her start the meeting with kind of reacting to all of the debate about concurrency, which has, in addition to the declining resources and, as you mentioned, the lack of interest in behavioral interventions, has kind of shut down the concurrency discussion, or at least the concurrency discussion in relation to standalone interventions. But we left the meeting and everyone said, okay, but we do believe that there's enough evidence to at least continue the research and continue, but we should be thinking about it as part of combination prevention and integrated programs. I think here at PSI there's fatigue. So I mean, and Krishna laughs, but I mean it's such a complex issue, and some of the behavioral fatigue, and then some of the elements that are important to concurrency, I think, don't necessarily fit within what we do best. So
the structural stuff?
The structural, I mean, the trying to change the structural norms. I don't think so.
No, I agree. And I know from personal experience, I've always believed the structural things are important, but when we are actually challenged to produce an actionable list of structural things to work on, it's not easy.
Right. And we want to be able to say, okay, that has led to this DALI, and it's
So what do you think? Fight it or accept it? What's your view?
Fight it or accept what? Concurrency?
No, the demise of behavioral prevention. What do you think?
No, I do have some strong opinions, but I personally, I don't understand why we separate behavioral interventions from treatment or from condoms. It's all behavior. We're trying to change behavior. So I mean, I always, like to use an analogy. If we were to throw take it out of the wrapper, throw it in the middle of the table. There's no information on the package. We haven't told anybody how to use it. No, don't know where to get it. All of that is communication, and it would lead to no behavior, I don't think. So why are we separating that condom from behavior? So that's, but I think that, when you talk about the innovation, there has been a lot of innovation in terms of, devices and clinical stuff. We probably have slid backwards in innovation.
I agree with that.
Communication and behavior, but that doesn't mean it doesn't work. And we're also held to a different standard in terms of measurement that doesn't necessarily match. So I don't think that we should stop it, and I think we should stop the arguments about the difference between splicing out behavior from biomedical, and it's kind of ridiculous.
Those are all great points. I think part of what I'm hearing is the difficulty of the position I think you very rightly put forward is I think even within USAID and CDC, people will say clearly there's a behavior change component to getting circumcised or taking a tablet. But I think behavior change has been largely relegated to reinforcing the biomedical interventions now. And there's been a collapse of confidence in standalone behavioral prevention. I think if you're interested in pursuing this, I think the person who still makes the most eloquent and effective arguments for behavioral prevention is Daniel Lobia, the head of evaluation at the Global Fund, who points out that the behavior change we've seen in Uganda, Kenya, Zimbabwe, India has prevented far more infections than we've placed people on treatment. So the reality is that even if we can't attribute it to formal programs, we've seen enormous behavior change, which has made an enormous difference. And he really makes the point eloquently. I think he would be a really good person to try and talk to and re-energize the debate, because he genuinely still believes in it.
Yeah.
While I would put myself in the position, as I said earlier, just thinking it's so much harder to do behavioral prevention today in the context of donor fatigue, AIDS fatigue, and readily available treatment.
Right.
Yeah.